Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. We are talking about the most improved game of the year 2024. We're handing out a Shacknews Award, but let's get to the nominees. Diablo 4, F-Zero 99, Cities Skylines 2, DayZ, Call of the Wild the Angler, and Vampire Survivors. All very worthy nominees. Some may have shipped in worse condition than others originally, but this is about improving, not the condition in which they shipped in. This is the opposite of that. We're talking about, hey, it's been a little bit since you shipped, and your game's running a lot better. So that's how you ended up in this category. Greg, you still playing Diablo 4 much?
No, this life happens, but Nicole and I love ARPGs. Like the game loop of going into a dungeon, getting loot, and coming out is cool. And they added a new class. I haven't tried the new class yet, which is basically
But
a
you haven't really
Witch
messed
Doctor.
with Vessel of Hatred?
Not at all. No, I have not had any
Okay.
time much at all. No, unfortunately. I do like
From
do
what
like
I've
Diablo
read,
though.
people do seem to really enjoy it, and they said that it's improved the gameplay of that so far. So
People wanted
For what
Witch
it's
Doctor in the
worth.
game, and like they basically put Witch Doctor in the game, so that was the big deal to the new class.
For what it's worth, I can speak to Vessel of Hatred
Mhm.
very lightly. I was at the doctor's office, and my doctor said, "Oh, you're a games journalist. My partner plays games. Big Diablo player. Was very upset for a long time, but's happy now that Vessel of Hatred's out." That's all I know. So I think things have been good. There's been
Yeah.
improvement there in the Diablo player base, based
No
on
doubt.
my doctor has said. So
Also, just based on like our own community talking about the game,
Yeah.
I think I think Vessel of Hatred's been pretty well received by the community. So yeah, definitely deserves to be here. Let's talk about F-Zero 99, you guys. In October of 2023, Nintendo stated that they were not going to have any more meaningful updates to F-Zero 99. And then they just went ham for a whole year with these surprise reveals. Like less than 2 months after saying that, there was a winter event in F-Zero 99 where all of the Night League Cup tracks were remade with the snow and ice mechanic on the ground, and also that wind mechanic in some of the levels, like on Deathwind. They did another event in spring where things were raining. They added mirror tracks that were brand new versions of Mute City, Big Blue, like all these tracks that were iconic, but they're obviously mirrored, and they made them more difficult. They would either add things on the track or like jumps or stuff, maybe slightly different turns. So the mirror thing was something, and then they like did like another kind of bizarro version of tracks. They called them special tracks. Those are mashups of two levels, but also with a different theme. So there's like there's one that's like White Land 1 mixed with Deathwind. So it's you have the wind mechanic of Deathwind with the crazy turns of a White Land track, but you're on a track that's covered in snow and ice, so that makes your turning harder. But I think and then they did their I would say their best event of the year was they called it the festival event, but it was around the 4th of July, which was the most robust in-game event they've ever had to that point. You could unlock different like limited time icons for your badge or car skins. Like it was kind of awesome. They had a new song for the festival Grand Prix, and if you did the festival Grand Prix, they remade all those cities again, and they were at nighttime. So you had like Mute City with fireworks going off, and Big Blue with fireworks going off. So there's some really solid live service kind of treatment given to this game. And then lastly, they added the Satellaview tracks in their most recent update. And these are things that most people didn't think we would ever see the light of day. These were Japan only tracks built in the SNES game. So I guess all I'm saying is that like after telling us that they were only going to give us King, Queen, and Night League, they went on to give us like 5 more different Grand Prix this year. They added a bunch new other game modes. They revamped the team mode So now it's 5 teams of 10 as opposed to it was like 2 teams of 48 before. So they revamped that mode. They added a bunch of emotes that you can unlock. They added new cosmetics. They added the lucky ranks thing. So that created this sort of daily gameplay mechanic, a gameplay loop where your first 5 ranks of the day could unlock some sort of a background for your badge. Yeah, I think they've done an amazing job making this game better. They added private lobby so that you can host your own races or you can practice in the battle royale mode. That was something that I had as a negative in my review that they did fix. But yeah, it's still my favorite game, but I just think they've done a ton of work to improve it over this last year. And it's impressive mainly because they said they weren't going to do this. And also, a lot of people think this is a dead franchise. So to see Nintendo put that much love into a game like this, I think is really interesting. But yeah. City Skylines 2, I think the big deal here is that it ran like complete poop last year. Now, that may bother people more or less depending on how you view a city builder. Like, I'm never really like, what are my FPS in a city builder? Because it's not like I'm worried about hit detection or something. I think it was unfortunate that it shipped in the condition it did on PC. Because like Bill, like I don't know if you played it or who on staff tried it out last year, but like
I did, yeah.
on a pretty decent PC too, right, Bill? Like you have one of the last 2 generations of NVIDIA cards on there, and it was still chugging.
I didn't actually have the same problems everyone else did. I mean,
Okay.
like, listen, like, I'm not dumb. I see them. Like, I see, oh, I'm not getting what I'm used to, but it was still good enough. But where I think the problem would have been is if you had just a normal gaming PC. Our reviewer, who I believe was Josh Broadwell, he was having a lot of problems. So him and I were talking because, he was like, hey, I'm having a lot of problems with it. And I was like, oh, I'm not having as many problems as you are. There was definitely frame drops. There was definitely, especially like obviously when you add more and more and more to the world and
That's
your
what I was
cities
gonna
become more
say,
dense.
Bill.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how far you really got with your city, but for me, it was like the first 10, 15 minutes I was playing, didn't notice really anything. And then as I got like multiple boroughs in my city built, I was like, oh, performance is really starting to tank.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with the improved AI of the road, like the roadways, the way people drive. Like they put a lot of effort into making traffic more realistic, bringing in some of the mods from Cities 1 into the game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that just bloated things. And it probably could have used another 6 months of just internal testing.
I think my city, I got a city into the millions.
Uh-huh.
And it was definitely, you notice it, right? Like even if you can, even if it's playable, that it's not running at its best. So
like the reason they're nominated in this category is that they literally improved their game. It was in bad shape last year. It's in better shape now. It's still not optimized enough to show up on consoles yet. But I think they're making progress at least. So yeah, that's what this like historically. Some of the winners of this category, like Cyberpunk, or like games that did not ship in the best condition that did end up being improved materially. I believe No Man's Sky won this category in the past too. So it is a category where we're happy to see a comeback, or at least some sort of improvement. DayZ, this is more of a, hey, this expansion really kind of injected more life back into the franchise, and it did bring some good stuff too. Bill and TJ, I think you guys have kind of taken DayZ coverage intensely here this year.
it's
You guys want to talk about Frostlight and what it did?
it definitely falls more into the category of something that's great that's getting better.
Yeah.
I know that their concurrent players were higher this year than they've ever been. They obviously released the Frostline expansion, which came with the new Sakal map. Some new game mechanics are still being added in, and I think what's like the first gaming PC I ever built, which is going to seem like kind of silly because I know like a lot of folks here had gaming PCs very long time ago, was for DayZ. Like I saw this game that was coming out. I obviously started as a mod and then was the standalone was going to be the full-blown game. It was the first PC that I ever built. And now I'm on like my third PC and obviously consistent upgrades, but the game's still going like 3 gaming PCs later. It's absolutely incredible the way that they have managed to continue to build on it. I just think it's we see so many games that like came out in, you know, the mid 2010s and they're dated now, right? You play them and you're like, oh, okay, this is starting to show its age. To have something like DayZ that is not showing any age at all. In fact, it's better than it's ever been, both visually, character models, just new systems that exist in the game. They leaned much more heavily into the survival aspect with Sakal and with Frostline than they have in the past. Whereas before, DayZ could kind of be a bit more of a PvP game where you sort of just run to the military areas and get loot. That's not really possible anymore because you will just straight up freeze to death if you're not taking care of yourself. And it just has those emergent gameplay moments, but they're not in a single player game. They're in a multiplayer game. They're in an online only game. So those emergent moments are coming with other human beings. And it's still the only game that I play ever where a gunshot will go off and it's at me. You hear that bullet like past your head and you know you're in it. Your character's been alive for 5 or 6 hours. There's a possibility you're going to lose everything that you've worked for. And your hand is shaking so badly because your adrenaline shoots through the roof that you can barely control your mouse. It's the only game that's ever given me that feeling, and it's just amazing that they're still going. I know TJ, we played Sakal together, I think one night. But when you play DayZ together, you may never see each other.
Yeah.
Right? You may that's just the way it goes. Sometimes you're like, hey, I'm going to meet up with my buddy, and you never do. I just remember TJ saying something to me like, yeah, I was in a house and I had a fire, and some lady came in and beat me to death.
Yep.
And I was like, what?
It's one of the things about the Frostline expansion, like DayZ was already pretty hard, I would say. And I would say that it got a little bit harder in the when you start a fresh character on the Sakal map, just because like it's of all the new threats that they've added to it, like dealing with the cold, trying to get proper warm gear. But at the same time, when you finally get over the slump, like the hurdle of like getting yourself those early weapons, getting yourself those early clothing, finding a reliable source of food, it feels so satisfying to get your feet underneath you in that expansion.
And then a bullet.
Yeah. And you never feel like you're in control of the situation. But just to be able to get your feet up underneath you and be like the kind of threat that would make somebody that isn't armed think twice before attacking you. Or just
sorry, I don't want. I thought you were finishing.
No, go ahead.
There's always been, if you have a fire in DayZ in a house, smoke comes out of the chimney. If it's nighttime, you'll see obviously the lighting from the fire, right? So you could be walking around at night and see 1,000 meters away, there's a fire, or you could see the smoke coming out. And in the past, that was always something of like, hey, I can ambush that person and I can take their really cool gun, or I can take their clothes, or I can, whatever it happens to be. Frostline and Sakal changed that. The first time I came across a fire, it was like, hey, I'm going to kill that person because I need to be warm. Like, I'm starving, or maybe they have medication. It became, I'm going to do this for PvP reasons because I just want better loot to, if I don't do this, I might die. Like, it became a need instead of a desire to attack people. And the fact that fire is so important in Sakal is actually one of the things that really changed DayZ, because you need fire to survive, but fire is also a signal to other people of where you are. So it's this balance of like, I need to get warm, but someone's probably going to try and kill me if they see my fire. It's a very wild thing, and just crazy how far the game has come.
The thing you were talking about, Bill, the intensity that happens when conflict occurs in DayZ, you know, that bullet the first time, you guys hitting the ground, right? Like getting prone because you know someone's trying to kill you. And I know this game predates this game I'm mentioning, but the other game that made me feel like that was 2017 PUBG.
Yeah.
Those tense moments when the circle's closing in and you're in a building and you know that there's someone in that building across from you and they're going to try to kill you. I think that just watching you guys play Frostline this year was some of the most intense situations I've seen since like 2017 PUBG. And I know I know there's a whole relationship between Arma and PUBG and DayZ.
Sure.
But I wanted to bring that up as like that is like something that's been present in DayZ in the past, and I think it's always been a part of the game. But I think Sakal and just the renewed player base this year kind of increased the chances of those things happening.
And you've always been when I played Sakal, Jan was streaming it for us, and I was going to meet up with them, and then I bumped into a gentleman who I've now learned his Twitch name is TurboSad. And he was pretending to be like a 96-year-old grandfather, and he was acting all old, and he was like, so he was role playing the character, and I bumped into him, and I thought at first like, hey, this guy's gonna kill me, right? And there's always that, like, you just don't know who you're gonna meet. Are they friendly? Are they not friendly? Because it's up to whoever the player is. How do they want to approach it? What do they want to do? And I remember TurboSad was drinking at a fountain, and I didn't have a magazine for my gun, but I had bullets and the gun. So I was chambering one round behind a building, and I was going to go and shoot him in the back of the head while he was drinking. Because in my mind, I was like, I think this guy's going to do it to me.
It's kill or be killed.
It's like this sort of like tense situation, but I didn't do it. We ended up going on a 6-hour adventure across the entire map, which is where the landmine video came from. When we ran over the landmine going across the bridge. Adventure! Boom!
And Bill's like, and then I killed him at the end.
No, I never did. I never did. By the end of it, it's weird how you go from should I kill this person to the end I would have been I will die for this person.
I believe
it's
at the end of that encounter you had burned your pants off.
I blew up my pants. Yeah, the mine blew up my pants. I was fine. My boots were actually okay, but the landmine blew up my pants. So
the landmine that they crashed into incinerated Bill's pants. Yeah. Anyway, that was I love emergent gameplay stories, Bill, and like DayZ is like emergent gameplay the game. So creating a new playground for that and all the care that they put into Sakal and Frostline. Yeah, definitely a worthy nominee for sure. I think you're probably the person to talk about this next nominee as well, Bill. Call of the Wild, the Angler. You want to chat about what they brought to the table this year?
A little bit. I think it's a worthy nomination, and I think it deserves more attention than it gets from a lot of folks and a lot of media. I know we cover it, but a lot of folks don't. But Call of the Wild, the Angler, which launched just over, so it would have been about 2.5 years ago at this point, and it originally launched with a single map and like I think 12 or 16 fish species, and like pretty, this is kind of like if you know the Hunter, Call of the Wild. The games start off kind of basic, and then they build them out obviously over time with like a map or two every year and updates. Call of the Wild, the Angler now has 5 maps, including the newest one, which is Japan. They've now introduced various fish, not species, but the word is escaping me, but variations. So when you catch a northern pike, it always used to look basically like every other northern pike, except maybe in size. But now they have different details and whatnot, so that every time you catch a fish, it feels unique. They've added bait boats to the game, so you can literally take a little robot boat and drive it around and drop bait in the water to attract fish. They recently added rod holders, so you can now have 3 fishing rods going all at the same time. And
That's a
as
big
Asif
deal.
knows, it is a big deal.
That's a big deal, man. That's a huge deal.
It's cool, and it's as Asif knows, they also have legendary fish, and they have them for all 5 reserves now. So on any given week, you can catch up to 5 legendary fish, which are usually come with very cool stories behind them, in terms of like why that fish is there, and they already look unique. Like some of them will have like a big hook sticking out of their mouth, or one of them has like rotor scars on its fins. Just a great game. It's come a long way, and a very peaceful game, and something that I think is, if you're into fishing, which I know not everybody is, but if you are, it's a must play game for folks, and it deserves to be talked about a little bit more than it is, I think.
Yeah, another worthy nominee. And then, man, saving maybe the best for last year, Vampire Survivors just can't stop getting better. It's did you see the roadmap tweet from last week, Ozzy? It was like this. It looked like a Pepe Sylvia board of just
something like that. Yeah.
It was like, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and it's all gonna be great. It's like, yeah, this was a $3 game made by an indie studio, and now they're releasing $3 DLC that's expanding the game massively. Like, they gave us Operation Guns earlier this year, which added the Contra meta introduced the Contra meta to the whole game. Brought some levels, brought some Contra flair, even some Contra boss battles. They're just really embracing the platform that they've built here. And it's like, we're not going to make Vampire Survivors 2. We're just going to make Vampire Survivors forever. And I'm here for it.
It's that Among Us phenomenon where it's like, wait, why are we working on a sequel when this game is still selling,
Yeah. This is their game now. And I think it's like, we had 2 games this year. Vampire Survivors has been out now, but then we also have Balatro, right? Where like they are very similar in both being indie darlings, maybe not the highest budget, but doing something like packaging together gameplay mechanics in a way that was unique and fun,
making
also
the most of simplicity.
Yes, and like minimalism, and then. Every single pick they've made, Ozzy, has been flawless. Like, I remember hearing the Contra news and being very confused because I was like, why not Castlevania? But then I played Operation Guns and I was like, okay, I get it. And then what do? They give us Castlevania anyway later in the year. So
by the way,
yeah.
Have you gotten to the Dracula part in that?
No, I have not had time.
It's incredible. You got to do it. You got to get.
No, I know. Yeah, so I love this game clearly, and it did get better this year. I'll point out that like in other nominees here, F-099 for instance, none of those updates cost any additional money. So if you're a Switch subscriber, like Switch Online, you got to play all those levels. It didn't cost you any more. It wasn't like $3, $5 here or there. Nintendo has not nickel and dime the F-099 community at all. Not with emotes, not with skins, none of that. It's all in-game gamified unlocks. And I think that's something I just want to highlight here, because some of these games, Vampire Survivors improved, but it cost money to experience that. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying that like some of these updates were free. Obviously, City Skylines, like they owed the community that update.
I would
Frostline
argue Cities hasn't even gotten to like where it needs to be all the way yet for people. Like I think that they're very much in the middle of
they're still
that game
trying to get to like 1.0 kind of level, because you remember that the original Cities, like they had a bunch of expansions out by this point.
Yes, and the mod scene went crazy that first year, and it's just not the same because they kind of put up some roadblocks to mods in the game too. So yeah,
like, congratulations, you're not broken anymore, which I know. I mean, it's improvement.
It is. It's worthy. It's worthy of being on this list, but I think there's games here that are probably going to garner votes more than it will. What does anyone have anything else to say, or should we get to voting? Voting? Sound like a plan? Okay, let's vote. Oh, sweet. Google decided to sign me out of. Why? Why does that happen?
I know.
I'm sitting
Just
here
keep you on your
in
toes.
front of Google Sheets on using their stupid Google Chrome browser, and it's like, no, you know what we should do? While you're working on this specific sheet, we're gonna log you out of it while you're staring at the screen. Anyway, sorry. It screwed up everything. So most improved. Where is anyone know the number on the spreadsheet? It's 15. I got it.
15.
Thank you. Let's start. I'm gonna start in the middle. We'll start with the center square on my screen, TJ.
Oh boy.
It's a tough category.
I'm going to go with F-Zero 99 because the amount of stuff that they just kept throwing on an already good thing was just
Unexpected, too. Like, no one was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get this." No, like we're like, we're happy with what we got.
It's by far the most support I've seen a 99 game get, and like Pac-Man 99 and Tetris 99 have had plenty of support, but F-Zero's gotten a lot of stuff in just 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Especially after saying we're not gonna do anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought was like, what happened there? Did they just listen to the Shack Together podcast and they're like, you know what? He's right.
We're more influential than you think.
I think so, man. I think my
We're
review.
Bowser's favorite podcast.
I'm telling you, my F-Zero 99 review has been read and viewed by F-Zero 99 devs. That's all I can say. And yeah, it's obviously a glowing review. Ozzy, how are you going to vote here?
Every one of these games has a good case for it, but I'm going to go with Diablo. I think Diablo was a pretty good game when it came out, but a lot of that fan base was disappointed, and I think that those fans are pretty happy with the game now.
Mm-hmm. Bill?
I'm going to go with Daisy.
Sam?
Yeah, this is really tough. A lot of good games here, but there's got to be something that's said about free updates for F-Zero and just seeing Nintendo support a franchise that so many people thought wasn't going to get any support. Really resonates with me as someone who likes games that are quite niche and so often fall by the wayside.
And honestly, Sam, you've written a lot of the news about F-Zero 99 this year because it almost always breaks after everyone's out of the virtual office. Like, it's usually a 9 p.m. Eastern Nintendo tweet that announces some crazy addition, or like the Japanese patch notes drop at 10 p.m. or something. So you've kind of been covering it maybe more intensely than other people on the staff. So you've actually written the patch notes at times, and it is impressive how many things they've done on that. Steve of the Steve Tendo Show.
Yeah, I'm going DayZ on this one.
My God. Why?
I know.
Got him!
I've been watching Bill follow along with this thing, and whenever Bill gets excited about something like this, I feel like it's something you gotta take notice about. And then I just really enjoy seeing Bill post some things on that, and I feel like it's made the game is better than it was.
Yeah, it's undeniable. It's reinvigorated that game, and it's 10th year. And yeah, it's still a fun game. David.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed Bill's videos on Daisy, so I'm gonna go Daisy.
I love how people aren't playing Daisy, but they just like watching Bill's videos, which makes it the most improved game. That's interesting. You might want to try playing it before you vote. Donovan.
Not gonna be happy with me. I look at this as distance traveled, and I remember how people talked about Daisy when it came out a decade ago, and it's gotten to a very strong place, and I think that's the most improved game of the year.
Okay.
That's my pick.
Greg.
Should I just flip a coin? No coin flipping allowed?
Last time that happened, we voted for the worst possible thing. So
That's true.
Don't flip.
That's true.
Vote for whatever you think is the most improved game.
It's undeniable how much Daisy's had an inspiration on like what Battle Royale is now. Like, it stemmed from that. And I think that's important. But then also, like, F-Zero is like a dead franchise. Nobody thought it was going to come back, and it came back, and then they keep supporting it. So I'm going to say F-Zero only because I feel like DayZ was due for a comeback anyway, when no one saw F-Zero coming back. Well, maybe the 12 people in
This isn't comeback though.
I know, but I'm thinking like most
improved. Yeah. So you're voting for F-Zero 99?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't get too excited.
Like a Schmidt. It's like they're paper hairs between them.
I agree. It should come as no surprise to folks at home, but I'm going to vote for F-Zero 99. How about that? Let me count the votes here real quick. I don't think. Do we have any absentee ballots? No.
Just Denny, unless he's already.
Oh, let me see. Maybe. Nope.
Oh wait.
Denny
okay,
just
no.
logged on.
He's here.
I think he just popped in right now.
Shit. Okay, here we go. You doing okay, dude?
Well, hello. Yeah,
Hey.
I'm hanging in there.
Sorry, just to catch you up, we're in the middle of the most improved game deliberations. We have votes being issued. The nominees are Diablo 4, F-Zero 99, City Skylines 2, DayZ, Call of the Wild: The Angler, and Vampire Survivors.
Ooh, quite a list there.
It is. This is like all people should try out all these games.
Plenty of bangers, yes. Okay. Let me contemplate for a moment. Feel like tempted because let's see, what did I play the most of? What did I see the most of? F-Zero was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I played some quality City Skylines too.
It got better.
I definitely did. Yeah, it definitely improved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about the performance improvements and cities, why they're here. DayZ had that Frostlight expansion. F-Zero had like, I don't know, 6 different track drops for free during the year.
Yeah, there were some big ones.
And Satellaview and emotes, and all of it is free if you have a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online.
Feel like it's coming down between the F-Zero Nation and the Diablo for me. Oh, my dog was freaking out for it. Yusuke, what are you doing? You don't have a vote.
I think Yusuke might be an F-Zero fan. He's like, you have the power to end this.
You know what? I as someone who's been watching what's been going through with the F-Zero side, I'm gonna lean toward the F-Zero this time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show him some love.
Hell yeah. Well, barely, guys. Barely. We have, let me count this. 1, 2, 3, 4 votes for DayZ. 1 vote for Diablo 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes for F-Zero 99.
Oh, it was that close, huh?
You were the decider, my friend. Wow. How about that? F-Zero 99 won a Shacknews Award. This is back-to-back years that F-Zero has won a Shacknews Award. I'm not going to be able to say that ever again, I don't think. So that's pretty cool.
GG.
Yeah, seriously. The heroes at Nintendo who made F-Zero 99, I could never thank you enough. I think they've done amazing work. They are maybe the most hidden game devs at Nintendo. You'll never see the game director talk about the game, which is kind of weird because you think about how front and center like the game dev of like Overwatch had been in the past, or Don Mustard when he was talking about Fortnite in the past. Like for Nintendo to build like an actual community in F-Zero 99 without really having anyone talk to the community, I think is pretty interesting. But yeah, like it's just so many free updates, amazing tracks, and it's against the backdrop of them saying, we're not going to really support this game. And then I don't know what happened internally, but someone was like, no, we need to improve this game.
Doug Bowser listened to your podcast, and he's been listening every week.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug Bowser, and also everyone who works on F-Zero 99 and all these other games. Every single game in this category improved, and we appreciate everyone who worked on doing that, because we know that sometimes you ship a game and it's not exactly how you want it. And that's what makes this industry great, is that you can fix your game. You can make it better. And sometimes people will appreciate that, and you'll have like a second or a third wind or a fifth wind. So yeah, all the games in this category deserve to be there. I think we're probably going to be talking about these games in some other categories too. But for now, the most improved game of the year 2024 here at the Shacknews Awards goes to F-Zero 99.
"99 players, one winner." It's time to race your way to first place.